Welcome to The Talking Couple,
the podcast for real couples
looking for real talk
to build relationships that last.
I'm Deshawn.
And I'm Laurie.
We get personal about our marriage to help couples embrace the phrase,
we need to talk.
Hello world, and welcome to the Talking Couple podcast, episode number 106. We're getting personal about our marriage to inspire couples to start creating the relationships that last.
On today's episode, we are delving into our decision to not have children and the very real struggle of trying to fit into a society when we're not the norm.
And we're challenging those negative stereotypes or assumptions about being childless by choice.
But before we go there, totally changing the subject, we have been searching for a new show to binge watch. And I do realize that we are now contributing to the misconception that couples without kids have endless time to waste.
Yeah.
But we are rewatching one of our favorite TV shows.
Yes, and that show is Lost.
Yes, we found Lost, as
we
said.
found it. Yeah. We found Lost, and it's been a really cool show. Just being, like on an island, and a lot of things just happens in that show. So I think you guys should really check it out. It's really cool.
If you haven't already seen it, there's a lot of cool messages and meanings in there. But it's a great one to binge watch because there, I think, are 25 episodes per season.
Yeah, and there's 6 or 7 seasons.
Yeah, so
really
pretty cool. Yeah. All right, so now that that's out of the way, what is the question we're always asked, babe?
Yeah, so a lot of times we've always been asked is, do you have kids? And
first question people ask.
That's it. We don't. But being out here in LA, the first question we always get asked is, do you have pets?
Yeah, it's so funny because being in the South, the very first thing out of anyone's mouth was always, oh, do you guys have children? When we moved out here, it was a noticeable shift.
Yeah, to being with dogs and cats and pets, and no, we don't have those.
We don't. So we have neither. And we're comfortable with our decision to not have kids, but for some reason people never really know how to respond when we say no. Mm-hmm. And there is still a lot of confusion and judgment around the choice of parenthood.
Yeah.
I have a couple of headlines here when we were doing some just simple Google searches that immediately popped up. Okay, first one here. The generation who won't be grandparents is grappling with a sense of family emptiness. And I think that's one of the things that people that don't understand our choice to not have kids sometimes think, well, you're going to regret that decision later.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, we talk about it, and that is a concern, but yeah. Here's one that you've probably heard about that went viral was, should adults go to Disney without kids? The internet rages. And I think that was after a rant from a mother who said basically people that don't have children should not be at Disneyland. People with kids should be able to cut line and all of that stuff. So that went wild on the internet.
If you want to go, that's your choice. Some people still love watching cartoons and they love the show. And if you want to go and do that,
more power to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's another headline. The future of the city is childless. And that's kind of interesting because, being in LA or New York, being able to live in the city with a child or with children and raising them is really challenging. So, that was a headline that popped out. And then young Americans aren't hitting many adult milestones. And that article went on to explain, it wasn't just having kids, it was buying a home.
Yeah, home, being married, leaving the house, a lot of those things.
And why was that?
Well, a lot of it's because of they are the student debt, student loans, and that plays a huge factor because they don't want to accrue more debt than what they already have. And so, that's a big...
At least they're being thoughtful about the concept of that, yes, children cost money, being married, that, buying a home, those are all really big expenses. So, yeah. So I guess we should clarify before we go much further that there are two very distinct segments or groups of childless couples. And that would be those who are child-free by circumstance Maybe they're struggling with infertility.
Yeah.
They want children, but they do not currently have children. And then there's the other group, child-free by choice, which we fall into that category. And, it's actually not as uncommon as you might think, especially with us growing up in the South, where it felt like everyone
you come across, as far as couples go, had kids. And it's hard to not have kids and be friends with them and like plan and say, okay, hey, well, let's go out to such and such time or whatever place. And
just because we're in such different life stages
in life. And so a couple of stats that I found from the Census Bureau from a time frame in 1975 to 2015 with 30-year-olds. 90% of the 30-year-olds are living on their own.
In 1975,
right. And in same time frame, 89% of them has been married. 76% of them live with a child, and 56% of those same 30-year-olds own a home. And so compare that to 2015, you can see like the difference in those. 70% of the 30-year-olds live on their own. 57% of those same 30-year-olds have been married. 47% of them live with a child, and then 33% of them own their own home. And so, you see the decrease of about 38% of those 30-year-olds who've been married, and 40% drop living with a child. So, the data shows that more women and more couples are wanting to have children.
They're waiting.
To have children. And so, it makes a huge difference for a lot of people.
Yeah, those are some pretty significant drops, which that's a pretty wide time span, but that is a pretty big drop in just marriage in general. Yeah. Either people are choosing to delay marriage or they're not getting married at all. Maybe they're in a committed relationship, but they're just not, choosing to get officially married. And then also, as we talked about, the delay of wanting to have children, waiting till later in life, or just choosing not to have them at all.
Yeah. Well, I think, too, it's like you think about it where a lot of times that plays that factor, financial stability, like what are the things that I have going on right now before I bring in another person into the world.
Yeah, so I guess the societal norms are shifting a little bit. And I think people make that choice for all different types of reasons. I mean, we have our reasons, so why don't we move to that? Like, why have we chosen not to have children? And for me, I mean, we've mentioned this several times that we talked about this topic very early on when we started dating because it is such a deal breaker for people. And I knew that at the time, I didn't have the desire to have children. And so I want to clarify that. It's not that I made the decision that I don't want kids. It's that I have never felt that desire to have children. And because I haven't felt that desire, I have chosen not to have children. And I always had the caveat that if that changes down the road, then I would consider having children. But I've yet to change my mind on that. And I saw my sisters, I have nieces, I have a nephew. I saw my sisters, facing motherhood and all of those stresses and all of that. And it was a really big eye-opener to me to see like what all that entailed. And, say what you will, but mothers do bear a lot of the responsibility when it comes to parenthood and having children. It's just that motherly, connection, I guess. I mean, at least I saw that with my sisters. Like, their husbands are great. They're amazing fathers, not to take anything away from them, but I saw how much responsibility they had to carry. And so that was a big eye opener for me. And I've always felt like I couldn't choose. You
Yeah.
know, I have a career that I've pursued. We have a marriage. I would be a mom, and the messiness of trying to balance that, which I know all moms are out there trying to do that. I just don't feel like I can do it all. I mean, no one can. And that brings a lot of anxiety and stress for me that has just been, frankly, one of the reasons why I have not glamorized being a mom or just felt so passionate about being a mom. Like, I feel like I've joked with you all the time that if we had kids, I would be like that mom who the minute you walked in the door, I'd be like, take this kid, I got it, you know. And I don't want to be that mom. I want to still have a strong marriage. I want to be a good wife. I want to be a good employee, you know. And so I think there's a lot of sacrifices that moms out there have to make that often go unseen. And so that's just kind of some of my thoughts on why. And it's hard because so much of womanhood and motherhood are interwoven, and there's not a lot of separation sometimes. And so it's and sometimes being a good wife is being a good mother. And so when you don't have that, sometimes that's hard, I think, to kind of come to terms with.
I can see that. I definitely see that. And so for me, like, not having children, you know, when we talked about it in the beginning, I've always said that I could go either way. Either, you know, if it's good for the both of us, let's do it. If not, then okay, cool. I didn't have a feeling that, oh, I really needed to have children. That's just my passion.
Yeah.
I want to have kids. I've seen a lot of my friends growing up that had kids very early, so I got to see that firsthand, you know, being like in my teenage years. And, you know, my cousin, he had a child, a couple of friends, they had babies really young. And so I got to experience sort of like parenthood without being the real parent. Right. And so like it showed me that it's like, okay, do I really want to have this in my life? And so I was like, oh, okay, cool, I can go either way. But the main thing when we got together was like, I wasn't financially in the position that I wanted to be in to say, okay, babe, I really want to have children. And knowing that, I just didn't want to have that extra burden on the both of us, you know, because there were things that we wanted to do, things that we're still doing, that we're trying to get accomplished. And then having children like that will just create more than what I wanted to have for us.
Yeah.
So the big thing for me was really just being in a position to where I can feel that I'm contributing to the relationship, to the child, to our marriage, and, you know, everything as a whole before things just started to progress.
And, you know, as our situation has evolved and, you know, we're in a different position than we were maybe when we first started dating, we do continue to check in with each other and joke. You know, I mean, even sometimes we're joking like, are you sure you don't want to have a child? You know, or I'll start talking about babies, or, you know, I'll start admiring babies on TV or in person, and I'll say, now just so you know, I'm not saying that I want one.
Well,
you know?
we always go back and forth and stuff like that. And I think it's healthy. But again, we both know where we're at. You know, it's like, oh, you're going to just wake up surprised and be like, I really want a child. And be like, okay, well, let's talk about it. I'm not going to say, well, no, you said in the beginning, we're never going to do this. But people grow and things happen. And
exactly.
that's life, you know, so.
So, you know, making this choice, making this decision, it has impacted us.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes some for the good, of course. And then there's also trade-offs there.
Definitely. Well, you know, the trade-offs is that we get to travel a lot more. We don't have to, you know, wait on finding a babysitter or, you know, being able to do the things that we want to do more freely. Really focus on building something together. You know, if we wanted to go and live outside of the country, We don't have to like uproot the child and say, hey, guess what? You're going to go to such and such and leave all your friends and all of those things. And two, like, we don't have to, if we want to go to different places, we don't have to be like stuck.
Yeah, we're not tied down anywhere, which made the move to LA a lot easier because, you know, we don't have kids that we were trying to pull out of school or anything like that. I mean, we all know kids are expensive, so we have more discretionary funds to do with as we see fit, whether that be investing, saving, traveling.
That's a good one.
Whatever. We obviously have more freedom and more flexibility just because we're not, you know, caring for another human being. That is not our number one priority. We're trying to barely manage taking care of ourselves and, you know, putting time and attention into our marriage.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, you know, it has been harder for us to fit in. You know, we've had a harder time, you know, having really strong friendships with people around our same age because we are just totally not in the same life stage. We just don't have the same things in common with someone who has a couple of kids or a kid in school. And so that has been a little bit of a challenge, I think. And even like we were at a little kid's birthday party in our neighborhood recently, and I kind of felt like a fish out of water because everyone had a child except for us.
Around the same age, and except for us. But because we're outgoing and like we like to talk to everybody that we come across, a lot of people have kids, you know. And so one of our neighbors, you know, we've been talking to them since we've moved here, and they have a little one, and like we've hung out with them a few times, but we always interact. But a lot of the other neighbors in the complex, we don't know them until the other day.
Yeah.
And the only reason we knew that is because the neighbors that we hang out with has a small kid.
Yeah.
They have a small kid, and so obviously they get together. But then the one dad was like trying to interject, but he was just like standoffish because he's we don't have anything in common.
Yeah.
From what he thinks.
Yeah.
But you know, you just gotta get out there and.
Yeah, I think sometimes there's a misconception that if you choose not to have kids, then that means you don't like kids and you don't want to spend time with other people's kids, and that is not true. I mean, we definitely love, you know, our friends' kids, and we even enjoy hanging out with them because we don't have that in our lives. So
I think it's cool to like the children. We don't necessarily have them, of course. But when we do go visit, we're always playing with the kids, and more so than sort of like giving the parents like a break.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, look, the uncle and the aunts are here. And then like we go and mess with the children. And
well, they more run towards you. I tell you what, like you would be such a great dad. I mean, every kid I've ever been around like immediately gravitates to you, and you turn into like a little human jungle gym, and they just like love you. And then I kind of make like the waves and the faces, and they kind of look at me, and then they run to you.
Then they run. It's just it's fun.
So a couple other misconceptions. I mean, the first, I think the three big ones that folks with kids, or you know, folks that have had kids have about those of us who are choosing not to have kids is we're selfish, we're lonely, and we're unfulfilled. So I think that the selfish argument goes both ways. Sometimes people throw that back over at parents and like you're a selfish parent because you're doing X, Y, and Z. If it's your choice to have that, that is not a selfish choice.
Yeah. Well, no, because who's to say that we shouldn't have, or we should have kids? Like, I'm not going to get mad at you because what are you doing having children? Like, that's your choice. You chose to do that. You know, it's not like you can have a child and be like, oh, I'm just going to bring it back because I don't want it anymore. Like you thought about it at some point, you know, like you really put some thought into this and time and said, hey, I want to raise a child to an adult for like the rest of your life, you know? You can't just, oh, I think I'm going to go and buy this drink, and I don't want it, and bring it back to the store.
Yeah. And I don't feel like our choice is a selfish choice in that the reason that we're choosing to not have kids is not because I want to be happy or I want to have freedom or I want to this, fill in the blank. As I said before, it's literally that I don't have the desire to have children.
Yeah.
So why would I go down that path and then potentially be really unhappy because that was not a desire of mine?
Yeah. Well, no, don't put yourself through that. Don't put yourself through that much stress.
Yeah.
Because somebody else expects you to have them. I don't expect you to have them.
Yeah.
I don't expect us to have them. So it doesn't matter.
So the unfulfilled piece, I mean, do we have purpose without having a child?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
we have businesses that we're running. We have careers that we're doing. Like, we have goals and ambitions and dreams and all of these other things that a lot of people have. And so we're just not
living those out there, children.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
we haven't sacrificed those because we aren't putting those on hold for children that are more important priority right now. Another misconception, I think, is because we've chosen not to have kids that we just don't think about it. We don't think about having kids. And that's not true either. I mean, there have been many times we've had conversations about revisiting this topic. Are we sure? We've talked I think adoption is still potentially on the table. We've talked a lot about adoption.
It could go there.
That being said, I do realize that time is going to force our hand if it hasn't already. So in some respects, with regard to actually having a baby myself, that ship may have sailed. But that doesn't mean that other options aren't still on the table if we choose to go there.
So
what else? What other misconceptions?
Oh gosh, there's so much. Tradition, like family, traditions, holidays, all those things. I know.
We are a family.
Exactly.
Whether we have kids or not, we're a family. Yeah.
We made a decision to get married. We're together. We have our own traditions. We don't have to, like for Christmas. We have our own dishes that we like to make now, that we make together. Birthdays, like we have things that we do. Now, as far as like the family stuff goes, I think it's a little bit easier for me because I'm the only child with my mom, and so it's just like, hey, we just go there. But I know for you, it's probably a little bit more difficult because you're the youngest of three.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's easy. Even when I was single before we got married, it was easy for everyone else in the family to make decisions about holidays. And then I sort of get like looped in at the last minute because, I don't have kids and whatever. But when we got married, we made like a very conscious effort and choice to say, we're setting our own traditions. This is our family now. We're going to create our own memories and our own traditions.
Right.
You don't have to have a child to do that, There's also a misconception that child-free couples aren't busy. I can't tell you how many times people have said, I don't know what I did before I had kids. Like, I used to think I was busy before I had kids, but now that I have kids, like, I don't know what I did before. And yeah, I get that. Like, I can't imagine. I have so many friends that are working and with kids, and I don't know how they do it. But that also doesn't mean that we're not busy.
Well, there's been times where we'll be working in the office and like, okay, we have no time for ourselves. We haven't had any interaction, working out, going to the grocery. Like, we still have things that we have to do. We have to plan date night. We have to plan to go do stuff all the time. It's not just like we don't have, we have kids. Oh, I got to go to school, or oh, I got to go get here. Like, we still do that.
We still have a life. I think the busy part, where when you're a parent, you have to give up other things and you have to just manage this other human being and their schedule and all of that. Where we don't have that, but we're filling our time with other things that you maybe have put on hold out of necessity. And so we feel very busy because we're trying to do 3 or 4 different things at once, building a business, growing a career, producing a podcast.
There's a lot
all
of
those things, hosting a meetup group. I mean, there are all these things that we're doing that keep us very busy, that we're not just sitting on the couch all day and saying, oh, this is such a leisure life.
Yeah. Oh, we're doing good.
But that's by choice. Yeah. We have chosen to fill our time that way because we don't have children.
Exactly. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with us.
Yes.
So when we say no, we don't have kids, no, we don't have fur babies, we are not commitment phobes, we are not paternal, not motherly. We love, we're loving, we would be fine parents, we would be great parents. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with us. It's just the choice that we've made.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You said it really, really good.
No, thanks.
And so, but our lives aren't that perfect. Like we have issues. Like we talk about things. We have little arguments and stuff. Like there's a lot of things that we're constantly working on and that we're growing. Mm-hmm. And as long as we are moving in that direction, I think we're good.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about our lives aren't perfect. Yeah. And nobody's life is perfect. And so sometimes we do worry, like, will we regret this decision? Because people always try to say, oh, but you sure you might regret that. And so, yeah, we do sometimes worry about that. And sometimes we worry about like missing out. Mm-hmm. This is our one shot in life. Life is short. Our one shot in life to experience this. Are we going to regret that? But
I don't think so.
We haven't reached that conclusion yet. We still feel comfortable with our decision. So we're happy.
I'm happy. I'm definitely happy. One, like to go on the missing out part is real quick. If we want to have some of that child feelings or what have you, we've got plenty of people in our family to say, hey, look, why don't you come or send the kids to us for the summer?
Yeah.
And we can get our childly feel in, take them shopping or do whatever, and then send them back on our way. So
yeah, we've actually talked about wanting to get some land and a place on the lake, and then literally having summer camp at Deshaun and Lori's.
Yeah, so it's completely fine. It's just there's a different path for everyone, and if you want to cut new tracks and stuff like that to get to the same goal, by all means do so.
I think the big takeaway is that don't find yourself making the decision to have kids out of guilt or out of just because of societal pressures. So if you think, well, this is the next step, we got married, and then of course everyone starts asking, when are you going to have kids? And so then you just kind of fall into that routine of, well, I guess this is next. Much like how you get married and what's next, you buy a house.
Yeah.
And, it's just this societal norm. And it's okay to challenge that if it doesn't feel right for you. And it's super important to talk about that before you get married.
Talk it out, please.
So if you are a child-free couple, we would love to hear more about your story. Send us an email to feedback@thetalkingcouple.com.
Awesome. So on the next episode of The Talking Couple, we're talking about the dangers of expectations and what you should expect from your partner, your marriage, and your life. Subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app.
And give us a rating and a review so that little algorithm will kick in and our show will get in front of more people like you.
Until next time,
get to talking. Thanks for joining us for the Talking Couple podcast.
We have a favor to ask. Please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to The Talking Couple. We'd love to hear from you.
You can also find us on social media. We are The Talking Couple on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.